Hello, sports fans. It is Monday, September the 14th, the year 2015. And as always, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. Great to be back with you guys. Hope you guys had a fabulous weekend and you enjoyed all the games over the weekend. I am feisty today. Let's recap week one in the NFL. Let's start down in the Big D, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, where the Dallas Cowboys rally and beat the New York Giants 27-26. What in the world were the New York Giants doing last night? The New York Giants played a gutty, spirited game for most of the way. Their defense hung in there. They won the turnover battle 3-0. What in the world happened at the end of this game? What in the world was Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning thinking? I don't understand it. Giants are up 23-20, about a minute 40 to go in the game. They have a 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line. Dallas is out of timeouts. Let me say it again. Dallas is out of timeouts. What do you do there? You should run the ball. Even if you don't get in, the clock will tick under a minute. You kick the field goal. You go up 6. Dallas has no timeouts, needing a touchdown to go the length of the field. What do the Giants do? They call a play-action pass with Eli Manning. And what does Eli Manning do? Because no one's open, he throws the ball away. He throws the ball out of bounds. The clock stops. That preserves another 40 seconds at least for Dallas. The Giants do kick the field goal to go up 26-20. But what happens? It gives Dallas enough time to get down the field. Dallas goes marching down the field. Tony Romo did a nice job on that drive, just like he did the drive prior to that. And Romo hits Witten with barely any time left in the game. And Dallas wins 27-26, an improbable win for the Cowboys. They did it without Dez Bryant, who broke his foot. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. And the Giants and their fans must be sick to their stomach. Imagine if you're a Giant fan and you're all excited about the new season, and you stay up till midnight last night, and you're like, wow, we're going to get a nice road win against the Cowboys. What a great way to start the season. And you sat through that ending. You talk about a punch in the gut, and then you had to go to sleep late last night and probably get up 5 hours later for work. What a punch in the gut. As Pat Riley used to say, there is winning and there is agony in sports. That was an agonizing, painful loss for the Giants, and it did not have to be that way. They should not have thrown the ball there. They should not have called a pass play. And even if they did, if no one was wide open, Eli, get down there, take the sack, let the clock keep running. Terrible job by Tom Coughlin. Terrible job by the play calling. Terrible clock management. And terrible job by Eli. Eli Manning has got to know better. He's played in so many big games, won a couple Super Bowls, comes from a quarterback, family with Peyton and his father. He's been around football all his life. Totally clueless there. And Tom Coughlin, you've been coaching your whole life. How does it get to that point? And I'll give Coughlin and Eli credit for one thing. After the game, they got up there and they said they both, blew the game. It was totally on them. I'll give them credit for that, but come on. Tom Coughlin, I cannot believe you allowed that to happen. And before you call that play, you got to get together with Eli and say, Eli, listen, if no one is wide open in the end zone, get down and let the clock keep moving. You can't throw the ball out of bounds there. As soon as the Giants did that and the clock stopped, I said, the Giants are going to lose this game. You could see it coming. Dallas had just put together a quick drive before that. I knew Dallas was getting down the field. Dez Bryant or not, Dallas was finding a way to get into the end zone, and they did it very, very quickly. Awful job by the New York Giants, and their defense, which we know is not any good, which we know has a bunch of injuries, no Pierre-Paul, the secondary's all beat up. They hung in there for most of the game. They really did. They got 3 turnovers. Dallas was moving up and down the field but couldn't get in the end zone. Dallas was just making a million mistakes with penalties and turnovers. But the Giants just totally let this game slip away. Awful job by Tom Coughlin. It always cracks me up when I hear these coaches live at the office and they spend 24 hours, looking at film and analyzing stuff, and yet the simplest things they mess up. How about the two-point conversions? They always mess that up. The clock management all over the league is terrible, and then you see something like this and you just think to yourself, what in the world is going on here? I mean, Tom Coughlin has spent his whole life in professional football. How does he allow that to happen? How do you call a play like that? And then Eli Manning compounds it by throwing the ball out of bounds and stopping the clock. Eli, just get down there. You didn't have anyone open. Just get down and let the clock keep rolling. Dallas was not going to have enough time to get all the way down the field there. I mean, just an awful, awful loss by the Giants. Listen, I don't think the Giants are going to be any good this year. And this was just a punch in the gut loss. I don't know how you recover from something like this. I mean, I just don't. Their defense is not that good. I mean, they could have stole a game here. They could have stole a road win. And this was just a terrible loss. They're in a tough division with Dallas and Philadelphia. I don't see the Giants doing anything this year. I mean, this was just an awful, despicable loss. And Dallas pulled one out of the fire. Dallas, who I think is a playoff team, this was a very important win for them. They get a win. They're going to be fighting for, with Green Bay and Seattle down the road for home field advantage. They get the win without Dez Bryant. Remember, Dez Bryant broke his foot. He wasn't even out there, and they still found a way to win. They lost the turnover battle by 3 and still won. You never see that in the NFL. All the stupid penalties. I mean, the penalty at the end when they knocked the Giants' helmet off, it gave them a first down, and Dallas still ended up winning the game. So give Dallas all sorts of credit for hanging in there and being gutty, and Romo with the nice drive at the end. Nice job by Dallas, but a terrible, despicable, deplorable, awful loss by the New York Giants. Terrible job by Tom Coughlin. Terrible job by Eli Manning. Despicable. I really feel sorry for the Giant fans that stayed up till midnight on the East Coast to watch that slop at the end, and then probably had to get up this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. How did their breakfast taste this morning? I mean, after reliving that nightmare, what an awful loss for the New York Giants. I am shocked at how Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning handled the end of that game. So just a despicable loss for the New York Giants. So Dallas gets the win there. Let's move on. I just can't. And I'm not a Giant fan. I'm a New Yorker, but I am not a Giant fan. But that was just as bad a loss as you could possibly have. All right, let's get off that game. Let's get off. I'm losing my voice already. I got to get off that game. Let's go to the other games. Let's start in one of my favorite stadiums, Soldier Field in Chicago, where what else is new? The Green Bay Packers go into Soldier Field and beat the Chicago Bears 31-23. Same old story. Aaron Rodgers beats Chicago every time he sees them. Rodgers 18 for 23, 3 touchdowns. Clay Matthews, the big interception. Jones was amazing. He had so many big catches for Green Bay. Green Bay has the big goal line stand against Chicago. I mean, Chicago just wants nothing to do with Green Bay. And I thought Chicago tried hard. They just cannot compete with Green Bay. They don't have the personnel. Green Bay's just better. Chicago played hard. I didn't think they could play any harder than they did. They hung in the game for a while. But in the end, Green Bay makes the plays, Aaron Rodgers makes the plays, and Jay Cutler and the Bears just do not. It's just that simple. I mean, Green Bay is just better. I mean, this is a huge rivalry, and right now it is completely one-sided. Green Bay gets the win there. Let's go down to Houston, oh my goodness, where the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Houston Texans 27-20. I thought this was a nice road win for Kansas City. Smith had 3 touchdowns. The tight end was amazing for Kansas City yesterday. What in the world was Hoyer doing at quarterback for Houston? He personally gave this game away early. He throws the terrible interception that leads to Kansas City's first touchdown. Then he fumbles at like the 5-yard line, gives Kansas City another touchdown. I didn't think Houston's defense was all that great in the first half. I love Houston's defense. They got better as the game went on. And listen, they were put in a tough spot. Hoyer handed Kansas City 2 touchdowns. But I thought Hoyer was atrocious. They finally got Mallett in there, the backup, and he rallied them a little bit. But by that time, it was too little too late. I want Hoyer on the bench. Keep Mallett at quarterback. I think Houston's defense will be really good this year. I don't think Houston is as bad as they showed yesterday. I think they're a decent team, but they need better quarterback play. Their quarterback play was awful. Hoyer was atrocious yesterday. I mean, he just basically said, here, Kansas City, here's 14 points. Here you go. I'm going to throw it over to Kansas City. I'm going to fumble it at the 5-yard line. Awful job by Hoyer. I thought this was a very nice professional road win by the Kansas City Chiefs. Great job by them getting a road win. Awful job by Houston, especially Hoyer. Keep him on the bench. Let's go to the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Not too far from here, where the New York Jets just bombed the Cleveland Browns 31-10. I mean, the Cleveland Browns look like one of the worst teams in football. And I don't love their new uniforms either. I mean, that's tough to deal with, the orange and the brown. That's a tough color combo. I mean, McCown gets knocked out of the game early for Cleveland. Manziel comes in, starts out pretty good, throws a touchdown pass, scrambling around, but then he reverts back to last year. We had a bunch of turnovers. He just looked lost out there again. I thought the Jets played well. Fitzpatrick, I don't love Fitzpatrick, but he played well yesterday. Marshall did some nice things as well. Jet defense dominated the game just like I thought they would. I think the Jets will be slightly improved this year. I think their defense can do some things. We'll see about Cromartie. He left the game with an injury. I think the Jets defense will keep them in a lot of games this year. Now, I don't think they're a playoff team, but I think they'll be much improved. Cleveland looks like one of the worst teams in football already. I mean, they look anemic on offense. I think Manziel's going to be a bust in the NFL. I loved him as a college quarterback. He just looks lost. He was lost last year. Came in yesterday, started off good, but then had turnovers all over the place. I don't see him being a big-time quarterback. I think Cleveland is a total mess. They look like one of the worst teams in football. Jets blew them out. Let's go up to Buffalo, where the Buffalo Bills just manhandled the Indianapolis Colts 27-14. What a nice job by Buffalo. Rex Ryan had the troops all fired up. The crowd was amazing. Tyrod Taylor, who was a surprise choice at quarterback, did some really nice things. Threw a nice deep ball to Percy Harmon. Did some scrambling. Nice job by the quarterback yesterday. McCoy did some things. I thought the Bill defense dominated the game. I'll tell you, the Colts looked lost yesterday on both lines. We know they have problems. They took a bunch of injuries. Andrew Luck was throwing interceptions all over the place, and he can throw some interceptions. Remember, he's still a young quarterback. He threw a lot of interceptions last year, threw a bunch yesterday. Terrible loss by the Colts. I mean, they should be better than this. They were in the AFC Championship game last year. Now, I think the Colts, when all said and done, is going to win that division because it's a very soft division. But if the Colts have aspirations of getting to the Super Bowl, they need major improvements, especially on the lines. This was an awful job by the Indianapolis Colts. And this score, it was actually worse than this score. The Bills really blew them out, manhandled the Colts. The Colts looked very soft yesterday. And I was very impressed with Buffalo. Rex Ryan really had the troops fired up for this game. And I was impressed by the offense. I thought the offense might struggle. I thought Taylor might struggle. He did not. He threw a nice deep ball, did some scrambling, avoided the turnovers. McCoy, in the backfield is going to do some nice things. And the Buffalo defense and special teams are going to be there. So if you get anything from offense, the Bills could be a surprise team this year. Very, very nice win for Buffalo. Not a good loss for the Colts at all. Let's go down to Washington, where the Miami Dolphins rally and beat the Washington Redskins 17-10. Washington had a 10-0 lead in this game. Then Deshaun Jackson went out of the game with a hamstring injury. Washington, after that, couldn't move the ball from here to there. It was a collection of errors. Cousins had a couple of picks. Once Jackson went out of the game, Washington couldn't do anything on offense. Miami outscores Washington 10-0 in the fourth quarter, has the big punt return, and Miami gets the win. So nice job by the Miami Dolphins. They didn't look great yesterday, but a win is a win, especially a road win, especially a game you're down 10-0. So nice job by Miami. I'll tell you, Washington, without Jackson, they look like they can't move the ball from here to there. So hopefully he won't be out long, because Washington does not have a lot of talent as it is. If Jackson's out for any extended period of time, Washington is going to struggle to score. So Miami ekes out the win yesterday. I thought Miami's defense really stepped up in the second half, led by the big man, Sue. We'll keep an eye on Sue, by the way. The league's going to review one of his plays. They're trying to see if he intentionally kicked someone. It was hard to tell on TV, but Sue, with all his past, problems, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt, so we'll keep an eye on that. Miami gets the win down in D.C. Let's go down to Jacksonville. Let's go down to Jacksonville, where the Carolina Panthers beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-9 in a sloppy, ugly mess of a game, just like I thought it would be. I'm glad I took the under in this game. I mean, this game was close at the half. It was 10-9 at the half. Jacksonville scored at the end of the half, missed the point after, of course, in typical Jacksonville fashion. Now, the point after this year is pushed back, so it's going to be harder to make. I know a bunch of kickers missed that point after yesterday. So it's 10-9 at the half. You figured it would be a defensive, ugly game. And then Bortles throws an absolutely awful pick, in the third quarter. Carolina runs it back. I believe it was Norman ran it back for a touchdown. That made it 17-9, and that was just an awful, awful pass by Bortles. He just stared down his receiver and just threw out this wounded quail to be picked off. I mean, Bortles has to be better than that. That's something you expect in high school football, not professional football. I mean, he stared down his receivers and just threw this little dying quail out there. Carolina ran it back from there. Jacksonville could do nothing on offense. Bortles had a couple of picks. He didn't play well at all. And Carolina gets the win. Listen, Carolina's going to struggle to score this year, but their defense should be there all year. Jacksonville, listen, I thought the defense played hard. Their offense did nothing in this game. Jacksonville, along with Cleveland, they look pretty awful. It's hard to see Jacksonville winning more than a couple games from what you saw yesterday. I mean, 9 points in this day and age in the NFL. Jacksonville looked lost on offense, and Bortles, he's got to improve. I mean, he's got to improve. That was an awful pass that turned the tide of this game. At 10-9, you're right in the game, and you give them a touchdown on that awful pass where you just looked at the receiver and said, here, Carolina, run it back for a touchdown. Awful job by Jacksonville. Awful job by Bortles at quarterback. Carolina gets the win. They weren't overly impressive, but they do get the win. Let's go over to St. Louis, which this was one of the games of the day, where the St. Louis Rams in overtime beat the Seattle Seahawks 34-31. I think St. Louis will be improved this year. Seattle, I'll tell you, their defense didn't look all that great yesterday. Remember, they're missing one of their guys in the secondary who's holding out. Got to get him back. Seattle's defense didn't look all that good yesterday. I do think St. Louis is much improved. St. Louis had a 24-13 lead in this game. Seattle comes roaring back to take a 31-24 lead with the Williams fumble return. Then Foles hits Kendricks with 53 seconds left to tie the game at 31. We go to overtime. Seattle kicks off. Pete Carroll tries an onside kick to start overtime. St. Louis was ready. They get the onside kick. They go down, kick a field goal. They go up 3, and on Seattle's next possession, Lynch gets stuffed on 4th and short, and St. Louis hangs on to win. Nice win by St. Louis. I've been looking for St. Louis the last couple of years to make their move. Maybe this is the year they get there. It's a very tough division. I don't think they're as good as Seattle. I don't think they win the division, but I think them and Arizona could be fighting for a playoff spot. I think the Niners will be in last. St. Louis, much improved. This was a tremendous game. I hope you caught that one. Probably the game of the day, other than the Dallas Giant fiasco. But this St. Louis-Seattle game was a solid game. All right, let's go to the desert in Arizona, where the Arizona Cardinals beat the New Orleans Saints 31-19. Carson Palmer, 3 touchdowns. I like Arizona this year. I really do. A lot of people are down on Arizona. I think Arizona could be a playoff team. I really like them, especially with Carson Palmer back. I mean, I really like this Arizona team. I'll tell you, at 24-19, I don't know what the Saints were doing. It's late in the game. There's like 2 minutes and 3 seconds left in the game. Saints have a 3rd and 6 from their own 7. They have 2 timeouts. I thought they should have went for it right there. Instead, they punt the ball back to Arizona. Arizona goes down and scores again. To me, New Orleans is asking for too many things to go right there. I mean, to me, you're asking to stop Arizona. Then you're asking to get the ball back and go the length of the field with no timeouts left. Too many things to do there. Keep your offense on the field. It's 3rd and 6. It's manageable. Yes, you're deep in your own territory, but I like to take my chances with Drew Brees. Too many things have to happen in your favor if you punt the ball away there. So I didn't like the way New Orleans handled the end of that game. I don't expect a lot from New Orleans this year. They had a bad year last year. I didn't like that they lost Jimmy Graham. They are in an easier division, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Arizona, nice win for them at home in the desert. I think Arizona will be decent this year. Let's go to San Diego, beautiful San Diego, where the San Diego Chargers beat the Detroit Lions 33-28. I'll tell you, two strange teams here. I mean, Detroit is up 21-10 in this game. Phillip Rivers had two bad picks in the early parts of this game. One was run back for a touchdown. Then San Diego in the second half dominates the game. They outscored Detroit 23-7. I thought Detroit's defense was very soft in the second half. Remember, they lost Sue and Fairley in free agency. Detroit's defense may not be as good this year. I thought San Diego's offense really turned it on in the second half. You know, Rivers, he's up and down. He can have a bad first half, but then rally in the second half. That's how San Diego plays. So nice comeback win for San Diego. I thought this was a bad loss for Detroit. Up 21-10, you have things going your way, and you just get totally outplayed in the second half. Keep an eye on that Detroit defense. Didn't like what I saw from them yesterday. And San Diego, you know what you're going to get from them. You're going to get these type of games all year from them. So San Diego gets the win there. Let's go down to Tampa Bay. Let's go down to Tampa Bay, where the Tennessee Titans just maul the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 42-14. Tampa Bay set football back 200 years with this performance. First of all, Tennessee, nice job by them. Mariota, 4 touchdown passes. He looked really good, and I had my doubts. He looked tremendous. Tennessee looked pretty good yesterday. Now, I know it's against Tampa Bay, but Tennessee looked like a pretty good team. Mariota looks like he can do some things at quarterback. And then on the Tampa Bay side, Winston looked lost. First of all, Tennessee gets the ball, goes right down the field and scores. And then on Tampa Bay's first possession, Winston's first pass in the NFL, interception, run back for a touchdown. Welcome to the NFL, Mr. Winston. Your first pass gets run back for a touchdown. Tampa Bay set football back 200 years. Winston looked awful. He looked lost. Tampa Bay looked lost in general on both sides of the ball. This was a despicable performance by Tampa Bay. I don't expect much from Tampa Bay, but can you at least hang in the game at home against Tennessee? You have to be obliterated in your home opener by the Titans, who are starting a rookie quarterback. Awful performance by Tampa Bay. They, along with Cleveland and Jacksonville and a bunch of others, look like some of the worst teams in football already. Nice job by Tennessee. Tampa Bay, are they going to win a game this year? All right, off to Oakland we go. Speaking of dreadful teams, the Cincinnati Bengals just paced the Oakland Raiders in the black hole 33-13, and I'll tell you what, it wasn't even this close. Cincinnati dominated this game from start to finish. Carr got hurt for Oakland, but make no mistake about it, Oakland was already getting blown out before Carr went out of the game. I mean, this was just an absolute beating, and I'll tell you what. First of all, nice job by Cincinnati. They took care of business. They went on the road. They mauled a bad Oakland team. What has happened to this proud Oakland Raider franchise? How long are they going to put their fan base through this? And I love their fan base. And we'll see if they stay in Oakland or move to L.A. Their fans come out. They get all decked out in their, Darth Vader outfits and, all their great outfits they wear out there in the black hole. But this was just an embarrassing performance. And I'll tell you, the Oakland, I'm talking about the black hole, that's intimidating no one anymore. I mean, what they should do now, the fans, forget about wearing all these Darth Vader costumes. Put on clown masks out there, or put bags over your head, because this is a circus out there in Oakland. Your home opener, and you get just manhandled and mauled like this? I mean, awful performance by Oakland. I want the fans in the black hole to now wear clown outfits or bags over their head, because this is Ringling Brothers out there in Oakland. What a disgraceful performance. I mean, who was worse yesterday? Oakland, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Cleveland. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's already so many bad teams in the NFL. Oakland looks like another team. Are they going to win a game this year? Awful performance by that circus out there. All right, let's go over to Denver, where the Denver Broncos at home beat the Baltimore Ravens 19-13. I'll tell you, heartbreak on two sides for Baltimore. First of all, Baltimore could have very easily won this game. They were leading for a lot of this game. They had the interception return. They're up 13-9, and then what does Flacco do? He throws the terrible interception. Talib runs it back for Denver. Denver goes up 16-13. They tack on a field goal to make it 19-13. Baltimore has one last drive at the end of the game on second down. It looks like Baltimore's going to win the game. Flacco throws the ball to Steve Smith, right wide open in the end zone, hits him in the helmet and falls out of bounds. And then on the next play, Flacco throws an interception. Denver hangs on and wins. Gutty win for Denver. I thought their defense was good. They had a good pass rush. I thought their running game was good. Peyton Manning, keep an eye on Peyton Manning. Now, I don't know if it was, Baltimore doing this to him, or maybe Peyton Manning is finally showing signs of getting older. He looked a little old yesterday. Now, Baltimore can make you look old. Baltimore has the personnel to do that. We'll see if other teams can make Peyton Manning look that old, but keep an eye on that. Very early in the season, Peyton Manning usually wears down as the season goes on, so that's alarming that he looked this bad this early, but Denver did get the win, had a nice running game, had a nice pass rush. Baltimore can make you look like that, so I don't want to, jump to conclusions right now, but keep an eye on Peyton Manning. Baltimore could have easily won this game. Flacco had the terrible pick, then Steve Smith could have easily caught that ball in the end zone, and then they lose Suggs for the year to a torn Achilles. That's an awful loss for Baltimore. He's their leader on defense. Terrible loss for Baltimore. Also, Baltimore has no one to stretch the field. They have no one. You can't rely on Steve Smith, to be your main guy at receiver at his age. Need some guys to stretch the field. Baltimore used to have that. They don't have that anymore. And what was with Baltimore's offensive line? Denver put pressure on Flacco every time he dropped back to pass. So Baltimore really bad on both fronts. They lose the game they could have won, and they lose Suggs for the year. That's terrible news. Denver, nice gutty win at home. And by the way, I wasn't happy with this game because I took Baltimore +5, and I thought that I had this game. And to lose like that, I was not happy about that at all. So Denver gets the win at home. The Thursday night game, the New England Patriots beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-21. What else is new? Pittsburgh can never beat New England. First of all, I did get a kick out of the pregame ceremonies with New England as they were playing the song "Do You Hate Me Now," which I did find funny. The Steelers had chance after chance to get in this game, to make it more competitive than it was, to possibly win the game. They had so many mistakes, though. Steelers go down, miss a field goal. Steelers go down, miss a field goal. Steelers score a touchdown. Oh, wait, Hayward Bay is standing out of bounds. Take that off the board. Steelers have a 1st and goal at the 1, can't get in. Terrible play calling, terrible clock management. Is anyone covering Gronkowski for the Steelers? The Steelers' secondary, again, is atrocious. They have no corners. They have no safeties. They leave Gronkowski wide open all over the field. They said they were going to double him. They were going to do this. They were going to do that. They didn't do anything. Are the Steelers ever going to get a big-time corner? Can you draft one in the first round? I know you're not going to go out and get one in free agency, so can you draft one in the first round? You're drafting all these pass rushers, and so far that hasn't paid dividends. You got James Harrison out there as your best pass rusher at 40 years old. The Steelers' defense, the once proud Steeler defense, is now the weak link in this team. They could score. Even with the guys out, they had Bell out, they had one of their best receivers out, one of their linemen out. Steelers can move the ball. But the Steelers always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot, especially against New England. I always feel like either Cowher or Tomlin is being outcoached by Belichick. I just feel that way. And the Steelers never win in New England. They just never do. Had chance after chance after chance to get in this game and just shot themselves in the foot time in and time out. Brady had a nice game. So did Gronkowski. New England gets the job done again. Of course, tonight you have Minnesota at San Francisco, and you have Philadelphia at Atlanta. You have a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Remember, the first week of the year, they put a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. So that is kind of where you are in your NFL after Week 1. I'll tell you, people always say, why don't you pick, a lot of underdogs? I pick some underdogs. And Week 1, I tend to, take a lot of underdogs more than I usually do. I'll take a chance on a bad team in Week 1 because it's opening week, they're home. If there's ever a week they're going to respond, it's going to be Week 1. But after watching yesterday, don't tell me during the year why I don't take Jacksonville or Tampa Bay or Oakland or Cleveland or Washington or Chicago, and that goes for, my dad's friend, Mr. Rapuano, who loves his underdogs and loves taking these big point spreads in Oakland +14 and Tampa Bay +17. This is why I stay away from those teams. Did you see what they did yesterday? Did you see how they played? I'll take my chances and lose against the spread with those teams. I cannot take those teams. Week 1, yeah, I'll take a shot with them. They're home. you know, it's a new season. If there's ever a week they're going to respond, it's week one. Week one is usually the week I'll take some chances. But going forward, you're not going to see me take a lot of those teams unless they're playing each other. And you saw yesterday, once again, most of the favorites, most of the teams you thought were going to win actually won. And most of the teams you thought were going to lose based on last year lost. All right, let me get off the NFL. As you can see, I'm feisty today. I'm not in good spirits at all. Let's go over to the college football. Notre Dame rallied and beat Virginia, but lost their quarterback for the year with a broken ankle. That's a terrible loss for Notre Dame. Now, the backup did play well, but Notre Dame's starting to mount up injuries now. Lost their starting quarterback, lost their starting running back, lost one of their defensive linemen in the preseason. Notre Dame's starting to mount up the injuries now, and they got a tough schedule. Nice job by Notre Dame coming back here. Virginia played well, but now Notre Dame, starting this week, they got a tough schedule. They got Georgia Tech coming in. That's going to be no easy game. Notre Dame's starting to mount up the injuries. Auburn escaped over the weekend, beat Jacksonville State in overtime. Auburn is really struggling. LSU hung on and beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State missed a field goal at the end of that game. I thought that game would be close. It was. Michigan State beat Oregon by 3 in a very nice game. Listen, I'm not going to kill Oregon here. They fought back at the end, and they actually, with about a minute to go, had a guy wide open running down the sidelines. The Michigan State cornerback fell down, and Oregon had a receiver running wide open, but they couldn't hook up. The pass was overthrown. Oregon could have came back and won this game, so I'm not going to kill them. I don't think they're going to drop too far in the rankings. I think they're still alive for everything. Nice win by Michigan State at home. They almost blew it at the end. I'm not going to kill Oregon. I give Oregon credit for even playing this game, going to a hostile environment and playing this game. It was a nice game. Oregon's going to have to start finding ways to win this game. They always find ways to lose these type of games recently. They got to start finding ways to win these type of games. And how about the Tennessee-Oklahoma game? Tennessee is up 17-3 at home in the fourth quarter of this game. Oklahoma rallies to tie it, wins it in double overtime. Gutty win by Oklahoma. Tennessee had this game in the bag. I'll tell you where this game changed. Tennessee's up 17-3, early third quarter. They're driving. They throw a pass to, I believe, the tight end who's wide open, who's going to walk in for a touchdown. He drops the ball. Then Tennessee misses a field goal. That would have put them up 3 scores, would have put Oklahoma in a huge hole. From there, Oklahoma's defense really plays well the second half. The quarterback for Oklahoma really responded after a bad first half. Ties the game. They win it in double overtime. Gutty win for Oklahoma. I didn't think they had it in them. Nice job by Oklahoma. This was a really nice come-from-behind win. Tennessee, they're close, but they're not quite there yet. And how about BYU 2 weeks in a row? Remember last week they won on the Hail Mary at Nebraska? Well, this week they won on a Hail Mary at home against Boise State. BYU, 2 great wins in a row. I hope you caught both of those games. If not, go find them on YouTube or some highlight package. BYU, back-to-back weeks, they win on a Hail Mary. So that was kind of your college football. Everything else was pretty much blowouts. We're still early in the college football season. So that's your college football. As far as Major League Baseball, we're starting to head down the home stretch here. As far as the American League, Toronto looks like they're going to win the American League East. You know Kansas City's going to win the Central. Houston and Texas battling in that division. As far as the wild card, Yankees are in good shape for the wild card, but they lose to Sheriff for the year. Texas right now is your second wild card team. They're only a game over Minnesota, 3 over the Angels, and 4 over Cleveland. Cleveland's starting to sneak in, but they're running out of time. As far as the National League, we're pretty much all set. We just don't need the seedings. The Mets are going to win the division. St. Louis and Pittsburgh are battling for their division. They're both going to make the playoffs. Dodgers are in. And then Pittsburgh and the Cubs right now are your wild card. So the National League is pretty set as far as the teams. We just don't know the order. American League, you still got to figure out this wild card and the Houston-Texas race as well. So that is your Major League Baseball. As far as the U.S. Open, listen, I'm really down on tennis. I really am. I've been down on tennis going back to the Pete Sampras years. Tennis to me has really lost its luster. I went back and I was looking at old Sports Illustrated covers. You know, you can go online and look at all the Sports Illustrated covers from years past. And I was looking at some old covers, and they had an article on Sports Illustrated in the mid-'90s talking about tennis. And the article, the main caption was, "Is tennis dying?" And this is back in the 90s. It has gotten so bad. There is no depth in men's or women's tennis. Men's tennis has become a complete joke. I went back, the last 43 majors, Federer, Nadal, or Novak has won 38 of those 43 majors going back over 10 years. Andy Murray won twice, Wawrinka won twice, and Del Potro won once. That's the only 5 other times that either Federer, Nadal, or Novak has not won a major. That's too one-sided. There's no depth in men's tennis. Where are all the young stars in men's tennis? I don't think anyone in the United States on the men's side plays tennis anymore. That's a huge gap to fill. Tournament after tournament. Roger Federer is pushing 35 years old. He's still making the finals. He can't win the finals anymore. He just can't. But he can get there. You know why? Because the competition getting there is so light. Did you see who he had to beat just to get to the finals? Not much. Did you see who Novak had to beat to win this tournament? You couldn't pick these guys out of a lineup. And this is going through the quarterfinals. I mean, who in the world did Novak beat going through the quarterfinals? Nobody. Then in the semis, he plays Cilic, who, let's face it, Cilic is a one-hit wonder. He's not that great of a player. He had one tournament. He's probably never going to win a major again. That was an awful semifinal. The Federer-Wawrinka semifinal was just as bad. And then, you know, at the end, Novak is too strong for Federer at this point. Federer's old. He's past his prime. He can't win against a guy in his prime right now. He just can't. I mean, tennis has become so one-sided and just so, it's so elitist. I mean, the same guys are winning every tournament. I mean, it's just a joke. Novak was in every final this year. Serena Williams almost won 4 tournaments, 4 majors in a row. And if we're looking for some young blood on the tennis side, on the women's side, don't look for it. Because the 2 Italian ladies that made the finals, they're both in their 30s. One retired already, and the other one you're never going to see in a final again. Where's all the young blood in tennis? Where are all the young stars? I mean, the women's side, you got maybe a few coming up, but where are the stars on the men's side? I mean, Federer getting to another final? How much of this are we going to have to watch? I mean, like I said, the last 43 majors, Federer, Nadal, and Novak have won 38 of them. That's ridiculous. There's no depth in men's tennis. You don't have to watch these tournaments. I did not have to watch this men's tournament to tell you exactly what was going to happen here. To tell you exactly, round by round, to tell you exactly what was going to happen, who was going to be there at the end, and who was going to play each other. There was nothing going on. It's not exciting. There's no drama. I mean, it's just not. They don't even go 5 sets. Most of these most of these games go 3 sets and they're over. I mean, it's just one-sided. It is so one-sided in tennis. I can't take it anymore. And I don't know, once these 3 retire, Federer, Nadal, and Novak, what's going to go on with tennis? Who is an up-and-comer here? Who's going to win these tournaments? I mean, what is going on in men's tennis? And women's is not much better. It's slightly better, but not much. Serena Williams was a hair away from winning all 4 majors this year. Novak won 3 majors this year. He played in 4 finals. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's really ridiculous. And this goes back to the Pete Sampras years. Pete Sampras dominated during his time. You know why? He had no competition either. Maybe a little from Andre Agassi, but every time Sampras played Agassi, he beat him. So there has not been depth in men's tennis since going back to like the Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe era, when they had like 15 guys that could win a tournament, you know, at any given time. You had Connors and McEnroe and Borg and Lendl and Becker and Edberg and Wielander, and the list went on and on and on. Now you got nobody. And now with an older Federer, who, let's face it, he's past his prime, but he's still hanging on because the competition is so weak, an injured Nadal, all you have is Novak. And remember, Novak couldn't beat Federer and Nadal in their prime. He's starting to win now because those 2 guys are done. So now he's starting to win some. He's only 10-8 Novak in finals. I mean, he was 8-8 just up until these last 2 finals. So he never beat Federer and he never beat Nadal. But now that Federer's old and Nadal's hurt, now he's starting to win. And 10-8 in the finals is not a great percentage. You know, and I don't take anything away from him. And he's beaten who's in front of him. And this is not about really Federer, Nadal, and Novak. It's about the depth of men's tennis. Where are the young stars? Where are they? I mean, the men's side is a complete joke. You don't have to watch these tournaments. You didn't have to watch the U.S. Open. I knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. And this goes on every tournament for years. This has been going on for 10 years. First, Federer won every tournament. Then Nadal won every tournament. Now Novak's winning every tournament. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And Serena Williams has been dominating for how many years? I mean, Sharapova, we thought was going to be her rival. Sharapova looks at Serena Williams and loses the match. I mean, Sharapova just doesn't even want to compete with Serena Williams. So both men's and women's tennis is, to me, at a low point. This is the worst field of players, to me, in the history of tennis. As you can see, I'm upset today. And let's move on to another thing that's going to upset me. How about Floyd Mayweather? How about the Floyd Mayweather fight over the weekend against Berto? 12 rounds to nothing. I mean, here we go again. Just like tennis with no competition, there's no competition for Mayweather. Mayweather's pushing 40 as a boxer. That's old. There's no young fighters out there that can give him a fight. 12 rounds to 0. And by the way, why did Berto get a shot at this title, by the way? What did Berto do? He's 3-4 in his last 7 fights. He's never been good. I mean, this was an awful fight. I want to know who bought this fight and enjoyed it. Now, if you're a Mayweather fan, okay, fine. You love Mayweather. You bought the fight. He won. Okay, great. If you're a boxing fan, who bought this fight and enjoyed it? If you're just a neutral boxing fan, who bought this fight and enjoyed it? Mayweather has had no competition now for 20 years. Where's all the young boxers? Where are they? The heavyweight division is a joke. Klitschko's been the champion now for how many years? 10 years? Klitschko? I mean, there's no one in the heavyweight division, and now it's starting to trickle down to the lower weight classes. There's no one that can give Mayweather a fight? Just a little competitive fight? 12 rounds to nothing every fight, every fight, every fight? And I'm not taking anything away from Mayweather. I know he's got this thing now with what happened in the Pacquiao fight with the IV and if it was illegal or not. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not taking anything away from Mayweather. He's a great fighter. He's an all-time great. Is he the best ever? No. He's had no competition. And his fights, let's make no mistake about it, they're boring. The way he fights are boring. I take nothing away from him. He's winning. Where is the competition? Berto? 3-4 his last 7 fights. Why did he get this fight? Who, as a neutral boxing fan, bought this for $65? Cable's expensive enough. Then you got to pay $65 for this junk. 12 rounds to nothing. Who, as a neutral boxing fan, enjoyed this? I want to hear from you. Not a Mayweather fan. If you're a neutral boxing fan, I want to hear that you bought this fight and you enjoyed it on a Saturday night, plucking down $65 to watch Mayweather dance around the ring and be a bad Berto. Awful. Boxing has gone down the tubes. The heavyweight division is a joke. There are very few young fighters, and if you find 1 or 2, they dominate their weight class because they have no one to fight. The golden years of tennis and the golden years of boxing are gone. And I'll tell you one more thing. How about MMA with Rousey? Every time I turn on my computer, there's Rousey. There's Ronda Rousey. There's Rousey eating a hamburger. There's Rousey in a bikini. There's Rousey on a commercial. There's Rousey talking to Mayweather. There's Rousey on a show. Rousey, Rousey, Rousey. And again, I take nothing away from her. She's elite. She's the best by far. The problem is the depth of women's MMA. Now, men's is a little better. Women's MMA, she has no competition. And the one person that may give a competition, Cyborg, is a steroid user, and Rousey won't go up in weight to fight her. She wants Cyborg to come down in weight to fight her, which will probably turn out to be a one-sided fight. How many times are you going to sit there and buy a pay-per-view with Rousey that ends in 20 seconds with her with an armbar, fighting some housewife? That's another thing. The last person she fought was a housewife not too long ago. No depth in women's MMA. I take nothing away from Rousey, but enough is enough. I mean, you talk about hype and the hype machine. Everywhere you go, she's on commercials, talk shows, here, there. I get it. She's got no competition at all. There's nothing. This is the equivalent. Tennis and boxing and MMA is the equivalent of me playing basketball against like my old neighbors and winning all the time. That's the equivalent. As a matter of fact, I should start going on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view basketball, me against my neighbors. And I can win every time. I mean, there is no competition here. And they shove Rousey down your throat every chance you can get. Every time I turn on my computer, there is a Rousey article. And it's amazing how trendy people can be. As she's just so trendy and people jump on that bandwagon. I take nothing away from her. Where's her competition? Where's Mayweather's competition? Where's the competition in tennis for the Nadals and the Federers and the Novaks? Where is it? Where are these young stars in these sports? Enough is enough. You pluck down $60 to watch Rousey win in 20 seconds. You pluck down $60 to watch Mayweather dance around for 12 rounds, and then you watch 2 weeks of the U.S. Open where you don't even have to watch it at all. You get no 5-set thrillers. You get the same boring junk and the same people winning every time. And you got John McEnroe telling you tennis is the greatest sport in the history of the world. I mean, come on already. Enough is enough. And then after watching Tampa Bay and Jacksonville and Oakland and all these pathetic teams over the weekend, I mean, I was not happy over the weekend. And I'm telling you, now I'm going to pick my NFL and my college picks tomorrow. And I'm telling you right now, I don't want to hear it when I go against Oakland and Cleveland and Tampa and Jacksonville. I tried some of those teams week one. I'll be a little different week one because it's opening week. I'm not picking those teams the rest of the year unless they're playing each other. And that goes out to all my dad's friends and Rapuano and everyone else that, wants to pick these underdogs. You see where that got you yesterday. Most of the favorites, most of the teams you thought were going to win, won the game. See, I'm a little bitter. Anyway, one other note here. Moses Malone passed away over the weekend. Moses Malone was an all-time great NBA player, one of the 50 greatest players of all time. Just had a massive body, great rebounder, was impossible to deal with. Just a great, great player. Played with the Sixers among other teams. Very sad to see Moses Malone pass away at the age of 60 over the weekend. Moses Malone, you will be missed. One of the greatest players in NBA history. Anyway, you guys are all caught up. You guys are all set. Thanks for bearing with me today. I had a lot of rants going on there, a lot of things.